Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda and I am back from my little holiday break. I took a little break, a planned break from booktube. Over the holidays, I put my computer away. I didn't watch any videos. I didn't answer any comments. Not surprising because I'm still really behind on comments. I'm hoping to have answered comments from December by the end of the year. Crossing fingers. But I just read. Well, no, before the holidays are just really busy. And so, and it kind of all fell on me because I'm the mom. So I did a lot of work. And then once Christmas dinner was over and dishes were being done, I'm like, I'm off. I've done everything. I'm done. Everyone else can deal with this now. And then I sat and read. And that's really my plan for the rest of Christmas break. Is to sit and read. A couple kind of housekeeping things. I did get microphones from my husband. So hopefully in future videos, the sound will be better coming up. The problem is I need to get an adapter for this charger and before I can charge the microphones. So I just need to order that and then I can go back to using microphones. So hopefully that will work better. Also, I'm back in Boring Corner. We still do have our Christmas tree up, but my husband, as you might be able to hear, my husband and daughter are watching something in that room, so I couldn't film. In fact, this is take 2 of this video because I had to tell them to be quiet. But I know a lot of you who watch this video are just dying to know, do I have a new bookshelf or are the stacks still there? And sadly, the stacks are still there. And they're just going to keep growing. They're just going to keep growing. So my husband's got another chance. Valentine's Day coming up. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I get bookshelves. Because at some point, I'm going to have to do something with the stacks because they're just going to fall over. I could pull another table over and start more stacks. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to get rid of books to the point that I'm not going to need another bookshelf. I have some books that I'm not gonna go on my keeper shelf, but my keeper shelf is there. I mean, those books aren't going away. And yes, I have, you would think I could read down my TBR bookshelves, and that is a goal of mine, so that I could get them all on one bookshelf and then use the other. That is a goal, but it's gonna take a really long time to get there. So I need a bookshelf. But anyway, that is that. So, in the last week, I have finished 4 books and I have DNF'd 1. So the first book I finished is I finally finished, and I say finally not because it was a book that dragged, but I finally finished my Ántonia. If you've been watching my channel, this book has taken me longer than it should have, only because the holiday season was so crazy and I didn't have the time to devote to it. I had some other books I had to finish. But it was a great experience reading this book. This may have been a reread. I thought I read this in high school, and I know that I read a part of it in high school. This book has 3 sections, and I didn't remember much other than I liked it, and it was Little House on the Prairie for grown-ups. And I'm reading the first section, and it's all really familiar to me. Oh yeah, I remember this. It's all coming back to me. And then I get to the second section, and nothing rings a bell at all. Nothing. And then I get to the third section and we're back to everything seeming familiar again. So I think what happened is I may have read an abridged version that didn't have the middle section in it in school. And there's some things that happen in the middle section that I could see possibly them not teaching in high school. So, I mean, I personally, I have no problem with that being taught in high school and wouldn't have had a problem then, but maybe it was, I don't know. So I think that it was 2/3 of a reread for me, but I really loved this book. Great characters. It's a much better constructed story and a better flowing story than O Pioneers, which I had read previously, but it still kind of got the same feel. Really, the characters really do stick with you at this one. And I'm really glad that I reread it. But I have this up here because I have a Kobo of it. But I will probably, if I find a copy at like the library bookstore, if I find a nice print copy, I'll probably get it for my shelves, because this was definitely a book that I would highly recommend people read. It's a nice attainable or accessible classic. So if you're like a little wary of classics, you can read Willa Cather. Willa Cather goes down easily. So yeah, my favorite Willa Cather is still Death Comes for the Archbishop, but this one is definitely in second place. And then when I went to Grand Gesture Books in downtown Portland a month ago, I picked up this, Kiss Me at Christmas, among other things. And this is a Christmas romance, a Christmas rom-com. And romance/rom-coms are not really my thing, but I thought I'm gonna do this, and I'm glad I did. So I'll just lay it out. This book is a Hallmark movie on the page. It is low stakes. It is just feel good, and this time of year, that is what I needed. I didn't realize how much I needed a book like this, because things were so hectic before Christmas, and I actually finished this book on Christmas Eve. And I'm glad that I picked it up. I am not a Hallmark movie watcher, and I probably won't ever be, but I do think that I will be reading Christmas rom-coms every year from now on. And Jenny Bayliss has a few, and it kind of feels like she comes out with one every year, so we'll probably just stick with this author because I like her. And really, this is like a mental break for me. But the story of this one is we have Harriet, who it starts off, she has this wild one-night stand and then kind of sneaks out. And then she works at a school. She's like in pastoral care, which is not what I would call pastoral care. What I call pastoral care is like a kind of support system from your church and your minister. But this is more, they're at a school, and she's more like a guidance counselor is probably a better way of putting it. And these students that she's kind of guidance counseling and disappear, and she finds them in this old theater that they've kind of broken into, and she's trying to convince them to come back to school. And then the police show up, and she doesn't want these kids to get a black mark on their record, so she says she's the one that brought them in. So she gets not really arrested, she gets taken into the station, and the rich owner of this theater, who's this very crusty old lady, sends her lawyer down to like deal with this, and the lawyer is the guy she had the one-night stand with. And then it all comes that the woman won't press charges if Harriet, like, and her group fix up the theater so they can sell it and put a production of A Christmas Story on. And then other groups come in and join the theater, so it's a very kind of community feel good. It's a Hallmark movie, but I liked it. In one thing, Harriet this apparently takes place in the good place, because Harriet can't swear. I mean, she always says things like, I don't know, whatever Eleanor would say on The Good Place. Yeah, those kind of like not swear words, that they're something silly, they're not swear words. So it's kind of like, this is The Good Place. I don't know. But it was enjoyable, and I will definitely be picking, probably next year, pick this author up again for another Christmas romance. And then I'm going to go to my DNF, for the reasons that I have kind of done this in the past, but my DNF, not surprisingly, is Cremains of the Day by, who's this author? Let me look this up here. By Misty Simon. This is one that I pulled off for free from Kobo because I needed a book with a pun in the title for my challenge. And then I said, I'm really not sure about this, but I'm going to give it a try. And even if I DNF it, I'm going to count it for my challenge. And that is what happened. It's a cozy mystery, which isn't really my genre. That wasn't really the issue. Because I'm reading things that are starting to get a little cozier. My issue with it was the humor just didn't always seem appropriate. Not inappropriate like they're rude or profane or anything like that, but like jokes at weird times about weird things. And it was very irritating. So I said no and put it down. Okay. Now, my final book that I did finish. This is another one of those books that's kind of political. This one's less political than the other ones that I had talked about, White Rural Rage and Attack from Within. But still, I understand if people, this is one deals with evangelicalism. If you don't want to listen to it, that's fine. I totally understand. Like, subscribe, join my Discord. I'll see you in the next video. But for those of you who want to stay, I finished listening to, let me get the whole title here. The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory, American Evangelicals in an Age of Extremism by Tim Alberta. So this book came out. It was another one of those books written for an election year, and when you read it after the election, it's a little different. Now, I have read books that dealt with evangelicals, political side of evangelicals. Because of that, nothing super new was in this book for me, but the telling of this was so different because this was not the one that I most recently read, I think was Jesus and John Wayne. That was, someone looking at it from the outside and trying to explain what was going on. This book is very different in that Tim Alberta was raised in the evangelical church. His father was an evangelical minister. He never left, I don't know if he would say he left the evangelical church, but he became a political journalist. And so he's telling this from a very personal point of view. And he's talking about people he knows and things that he experienced. And so it starts with, he finds out that his father has died unexpectedly. So he goes back to Michigan, I think that's where it was, where his father's church was. And they're at the funeral and he gives a eulogy, says this is his father's funeral, right? And people are acting really weird about him, and they keep mentioning Rush Limbaugh, which just seemed really weird to him, and they were a little bit rude. He finds out that Rush Limbaugh had kind of attacked him on his show because I believe Tim Alberta wrote American Carnage, which was about Trump. So yeah, that didn't go over well. And it just keeps getting weirder and weirder, and finally he gets a hate letter at his father's funeral about this book. And that's a little shocking. And, he decides that at this point he's going to kind of what made the church like this? What's going on here? So that's what he kind of turned around to discuss in this book. And I really liked the personal point of view of this book. I think that's something that was missing, and I really felt like was missing from the other books that I've read. They're kind of in this subject. I will say this is a book. I feel like this is a book for people who have at least gone to church for some period of time in their life. It's not preachy. It doesn't feel like he's trying to evangelize at all, but he does speak about things in church speak. And I think if you aren't familiar with that, you might not know what he's talking about. And it's a very specific kind of church speak. I've gone through, I've talked about this before. I am not an evangelical. I'm a progressive Christian. I'm a lifelong Episcopalian. So a lot of the terms he uses and the ways he talks are not things that I had ever heard in my church. However, I knew a lot of evangelicals in college, so I had heard about it there. So it is that. I would say if you're not a Christian, you've never been to church, I would be a little careful with this book just on that level, because you might not really understand what he's saying because of the terms that he uses. So there's that. It did feel a little disorganized at times, and there were a lot of names that were I listened to this, so it might be different if I read it. I listened to this, and he does narrate it. But there were a lot of names, and there were times where I kind of forgot who was who and whatever. But there were some interesting things, like how the Larry Nassar case kind of brought down a bunch of evangelical churches. That was interesting. But the one that sticks with me, and it might be because it was towards the end, but it was something that really I didn't know, and something that I really see what's going on here is he's talking about Liberty University. So if you don't know, Liberty University is in Virginia, and it was founded by Jerry Falwell, and it is sort of the mecca of evangelical universities, evangelical education. If you'd like to learn more about Liberty University, I would recommend a book called The Uncommon Disciple by Kevin Roos. That is an excellent book, and it's not political. So there's that. It also came out I don't know, in early 2000s, I think. It came out after A.J. Jacobs' My Year of Biblical Living, because Kevin Roos, there's a tie between those, and I don't want to get into it because this video will be too long, but there's a tie between those two books. But so Liberty University, he's talking about, it used to be, at one point it was he says a prestigious university. I don't think that, no. it might be a prestigious university among evangelicals, but I don't think it was ever really a prestigious university. But he talks about this one professor who was really recruited to come teach at Liberty University. I can't remember the guy's name. There were a lot of names in this book. And when he got there, he basically started teaching honors classes. And he realized very quickly that the students he had in his honors classes were very intelligent, white, conservative evangelicals who did not know how to think. So he started basically teaching them critical thinking skills, teaching them to question their beliefs and question things and try to look at things from a different way. He ended up getting fired over that. And Liberty University, with the assent of Jerry Falwell Jr., that's a whole thing. We're not going to get into Jerry and his pool boy, although that is mentioned in this book too. But they started getting to the point where teachers are basically just reading a script. And this is what it sounds like it is currently at Liberty University. That teachers are reading a script when they talk. You do not deviate from the script that is given to you to teach. I mean, why even have professors at that point? You can have anyone who can read a script go and do that. But they really control what is being taught there. And I was like, well, that's weird. But then I started really thinking about what's happening with schools in the United States, especially in areas like the Bible Belt, and places with a more conservative bent. So not really in Oregon. I mean, our schools have our issues, but these are different. Where that is basically what they're trying to do in public schools. And it's really kind of scary. They're trying to... So evangelicalism is a high control religion. So it controls every part of your life. And they're trying to teach at Liberty University and in the public schools now, it's coming up, this how to obey and how to submit in a high controlled environment. And which is frightening because that is the antithesis of democracy, the antithesis of intelligence, the antithesis of education. And it's coming from the top. And I found that was like the most chilling thing in this book. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was well written. I may have been better off with it had I read it because of the names and the whole cast of people who were in it. But I would recommend this if again, I would say take care if you don't have some kind of church background because you might not know the lingo that's used in it. But there you go. I would recommend it with qualifications sort of thing, which is what you'll see when I do my wrap up. So yeah, that was my week. So I will probably, 2025 ends on next Tuesday, last day of 2025. Thursday, which will be the 2nd of January, I will have my December / I'll do my December / 2024 wrap up, which the 2024 part is just looking at my goals and what did it. And on Tuesday, I'll have my 2025 goals. I've already filmed that. But I'll revisit my 2024 goals in my December wrap up. And then I have not done this before and I'm doing it this year just because I have my best of lists and I'm doing two. I'm doing best of top 10 nonfiction and top 10 fiction. For 2024, I am actually going to be filming my fiction video right after this because I'm reading books now, and they're good, but they're not going to make my top 10. I just know that they just aren't going to make my top 10. So I'm ready to do that for fiction. I'm not ready to do it for nonfiction because I am reading a nonfiction book right now, which may very well break the top 10. So, but they will be ready. They'll be like the second week of January. Yeah. And it's kind of exciting. I mean, usually I'm a lot more excited about the new year, but the world is what it is. And that makes me very apprehensive about the new year. But anyway, so there you go. I wish I wasn't in boring corner. I just noticed I kind of like fade into the background, but oh well. Anyway, subscribe. Merry, happy winter holidays, however you celebrate the end of the year. Subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.